Well, I have to say, can you hear me?
Yeah.
What can you possibly say on a night like tonight? Look, I know that the inclination tonight is to celebrate. And the one thing that we do have to celebrate tonight is we have an incredibly strong ticket for this election.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it may seem strange here at a Democratic Party event to start by talking about Mike Castle. I'm going to, because we have been fortunate in the state of Delaware to have Mike Castle serve us now for many, many years.
Yeah.
As a congressman, as a governor, as a lieutenant governor, as a state senator, is just a decent man who so many of us know personally and have come to respect. And it's fully fitting that we, as Democrats, thank him for that service.
Yeah.
And for Democrats and independents and Republicans alike, who for some 30-plus years have supported Mike Castle because of his interest and willingness to work across party lines, for his interest and willingness to work on the issues that really matter to people. Friends, you have one wonderful candidate in Chris Coons to support this. But the outcome of Chris's race and the outcome of the race for another fantastic candidate, this one for Congress, and John Carney. Let's hear it for John. Let's not forget, their elections are actually just beginning tonight. They're not over. And so the outcome of the election in November has a whole lot more to do with us than it does to do with Chris and John. Because there's only so much that they can do, and believe me, they will do it. They will be everywhere. They'll be working, they'll be explaining their position on the issues, they'll be shaking hands, knocking on doors, raising money. They're going to do all of that. But they need us. They need us. And we are fortunate that they are leading a great ticket from top with Chris and John to federal level, to our other statewide candidates, to the legislative candidates. And let's hear it for Bob Gilligan, our Speaker of the House. They need us more than ever, because the one thing that we can all take away, and for those of us who are in elective office, we know people are frustrated. People are angry. People want help. And what they want more than anything else, they want serious candidates who are going to go out and do the work for them and do everything we can to continue to create jobs and educate our kids and balance the budget and all those things we care about. So I'm urging you, for however many days we have left, 48. I thought somebody might know. For those 48 days and beyond, we're going to be talking about education and jobs and fiscal responsibility. On election night itself, we're going to celebrate, and then that next day, we're all going to be back to work. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for John Carney, the next congressman.
Somebody in the back, Kyle, tell me if I need this microphone.
No! Yes, yes, we do.
For the last several weeks, Chris and I and many of you have opened several campaign headquarters across Newcastle County. And in each of those visits, I tell people that when it comes to Chris Coons running for Senate, he's taking a big step for all of us. We just have to believe. And I tell him, and I tell anybody who'll listen, if Chris can get everybody in this state in a room the size of this, with this many people, he could convince them that he's the best person to represent the state of Delaware in the United States Senate. And up until tonight, I've been saying that he will do that by explaining the differences between him and Mike Castle, and what they stand for. And as Jack said, we all like Mike Castle, and Chris starts all of his speeches by saying that. We all like Mike. He served our state well, but here are the differences. The point is that Chris was running against Mike like he will against Christine O'Donnell, talking to the people of our state about what he's going to do in the United States Senate to get people back to work, to make sure our health care reform bill works for every family and small businesses, to make sure that we have the best schools in the country here in the state of Delaware and everywhere.
All right.
I'm sure nothing has changed in that respect. That's what he's going to do. From Delmar and Gumbar to where I grew up in Claymont. And every place in between. But as Jack said, and as I say each time we open up these headquarters, our success in November is going to depend more on you. Really on you, because when you look at this race, when you look at the challenges that we face getting people out, say here in the city of Wilmington, where there aren't going to be many contested races, we've got our work cut out for us. We've got to roll up our sleeves and go to work. And the message for me is one that I've been hearing day in and day out for the last year as I've traveled up and down the state. People are angry, they're confused, they're anxious. They're not sure what next week brings for them, whether they're still going to have a job. Foreclosures in our state, Paul, are up 3 times in normal years, 6,000 last year and 6,000 the year before. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of work to do to get our country moving again. The other message is people of Delaware want to send folks to Washington, D.C. to represent them, who are going to do things differently. We're going to reduce the deficit, get our hands around the national debt, deal with global climate change and health care and all the rest of it. And there's nobody better that I can think of to represent us there in the United States Senate than the next speaker, Chris Coons.
Yeah, Chris!
Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Jack. Thank you to everybody who's here. The campaign that we began 6 months ago to represent you in the United States Senate continues tomorrow exactly as it was going yesterday. As John Carney, who will be our next congressman? John Carney just reminded you, as we know in our bones, these are tough times. There are thousands of Delawareans out of work, There are tens of thousands who are anxious, who are worrying about the next week, the next month, how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to get their kids a better education, how they're going to hold on to their health care, and they want to know what we're going to do. Before we came over here, I was standing over at the Polish Festival here at the riverfront, shaking hands, asking questions, listening to Delawareans. And I heard the same thing tonight that Annie and I have heard up and down this state, that many of you, volunteering and working with me, have heard in the last 6 months. They want to know whether we're going to send serious folks to Washington to tackle the mess, to get our hands around federal spending, to invest in revitalizing American manufacturing, to take an honest, hard look at the problems Delaware faces and to solve them in a way that reflects Delaware's values. That's the same campaign we'll be running tomorrow. That's the campaign we were running yesterday. And we're only going to win with your support, with your help, with your prayers, and with your input and suggestions. Annie and I just watched Congressman Castle and his wonderful wife Jane give what must have been a very hard speech. And like so many of the things the Congressman has done in his more than 30 years of statewide service, it was truly a class act. He gave a positive speech that focused on the decades of service that his staff has provided, all the thousands of Delawareans they've helped. And I have to tell you, it was hard to watch without some real emotion, because the Congressman has been a good and decent public servant for his whole life. I hope Delaware has a long and good tradition of sending to Washington representatives who are moderate, who are independent, who are thoughtful, who are hardworking, and who are responsive to their constituents. And I know there's lots of folks who were supporting Mike Castle who want to see someone representing Delaware going forward who share those same traits. I hope they will join me in thanking the Congressman and Jane for their wonderful service to our state, and I hope they will embrace the positive, issues-based campaign that I intend to continue running, the direction that I intend to take this state and this country, and the hard work that I hope to do on your behalf with our next Congressman, John Carney, with our great Governor, Jack Markell.
Yeah.
I am humbled tonight, as I am every day, that I am out listening to Delawareans by just how hard the task is that lies ahead of it. We are asking each of you to contribute some time, some energy, some effort to this campaign, and we're going to be asking Americans to sacrifice, to get involved in finding the real solutions that face us to the very real problems that are ahead of us. At the same time that I'm grateful for the Congressman's good service to this state, and at the same time that I'm thankful for your encouragement and your support, I know that John Carney and I, and all of us who are Democrats in this room who stand for election this November 2nd, know that we can only be successful to the extent we have your full hearts, your full engagement, your energy, and your good ideas. Together, let's get this done for Delaware, and let's make a difference.
Yeah, Chris! Oh, all right.